When silence speaks, understanding the drift in relationships. Have you ever seen two people who were incredibly close just yesterday suddenly start to drift apart? Not with a fight, not with harsh words, but in a quiet, almost imperceptible way. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, like a leaf detaching from its branch. Have you ever been there? If so, you've likely found yourself asking, what happened? Was it me? Was it them? This kind of quiet fading is surprisingly common, yet it feels like a shock every time. It forces us to confront deep questions about relationships, silence, and the truths it unveils. Let's unpack this together. Why do close connections drift away over time? Sometimes, the reasons for drifting apart are obvious. A disagreement, conflicting priorities, or simply growing in different directions. Other times, the distance creeps in without a clear explanation. There's no fight, no deliberate pulling away, just an unspoken growing gap. This silence between two people often feels like an empty void, but it's far from empty. In this stillness, truths begin to emerge. Truths we might have ignored when the relationship was full of chatter and routine. It's a space where emotions, doubts, and realizations bubble to the surface, forcing us to confront questions we'd rather avoid. What does this friendship mean to me? Have we outgrown each other? Drifting apart doesn't always mean the end. It could signal a necessary pause for reflection and growth. When silence becomes a mirror that reflects hidden truths, silence has a unique way of magnifying the dynamics of a relationship. Without words to distract us, the underlying feelings and tensions come into focus. This quiet space acts like a mirror, reflecting truths about both the relationship and yourself. Have you ever stepped back from a friendship or relationship and realized things you hadn't noticed before? Maybe you see how much you've been investing compared to the other person. Or perhaps you notice how the connection, once uplifting, now feels draining. Silence forces you to evaluate the balance. Am I giving too much? Receiving too little? Is this connection helping me grow or holding me back? This kind of reflection can be painful, but it's also incredibly valuable. It allows you to see what you might have been overlooking when the relationship was on autopilot. Testing the strength of a relationship through silence. Have you ever found yourself stepping back from a relationship to see if the other person would step forward? Sometimes, silence becomes an unspoken test. You stop texting first. You hold back on making plans. Not out of spite, but out of curiosity. Will they notice my absence? Do they value this bond as much as I do? This quiet test can reveal a lot. It can show you the strength and mutuality of your relationship, or highlight its fragility. If the bond is strong, both people will naturally gravitate back to each other, often with a renewed appreciation. But if one person's effort was the sole thread holding the relationship together, the silence may become a permanent gap. Testing a relationship through silence isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding. It's about stepping back to see if the connection has its own rhythm, or if it's entirely dependent on you. Silence as a way of preserving yourself and your identity. Sometimes, the silence in a relationship isn't about the other person at all. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your sense of self, especially if the relationship has blurred the lines of your identity. Have you ever felt like you were losing yourself in a connection? Like your needs, desires, or individuality were being overshadowed by shared routines and expectations? Taking a step back doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to protect your well-being. This kind of silence isn't about ending the relationship. It's about creating healthy boundaries. It's about making space to breathe, reflect, and reconnect with who you are outside of the relationship. Far from being selfish, this act of self-preservation can actually strengthen the bond, allowing both people to bring their best, most authentic selves to the table. The role of silence in personal and relationship growth. Relationships, like people, need room to grow. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for a connection is to give it space. Have you ever spent time apart from someone only to realize how much you value them? Or perhaps you discovered that your paths had diverged in ways that couldn't be reconciled. Distance can bring clarity. It can help you see the relationship in a new light, free from the noise of daily interactions. This kind of reflection doesn't mean the relationship is over. It might just be evolving. Growth often requires change, and change can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary for progress. Not every friendship or relationship is meant to last forever, and that's okay. The quiet fading of a connection can be bittersweet, but it's often the most peaceful way to move forward. What can silence teach us about ourselves and our relationships? Silence is a powerful teacher. It forces us to confront the truths we might prefer to ignore. In the stillness, we learn what we value, what we've outgrown, and what we need to move forward. Have you ever used silence as a tool for self-reflection? Maybe it helped you understand what you want from a relationship. Or maybe it gave you the courage to let go of something that no longer served you. Either way, silence isn't just an absence, it's a space for discovery. This kind of reflection can be transformative. It can lead to deeper connections with the people who matter most, or open the door to new opportunities and relationships. Embracing silence as a moment for reflection and connection. When silence enters a relationship, it's tempting to rush to fill the gap. But what if instead you leaned into it? What if you used that quiet moment to listen to your own thoughts, to the unspoken dynamics of the relationship, and to what the silence is trying to tell you? Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a space for growth. It can be a chance to rebuild a relationship on firmer foundations, or a gentle nudge toward a new chapter. Either way, it's an opportunity to understand yourself and your connections more deeply. Your turn. Share your journey with silence. What has silence taught you about your relationships? Has it helped you grow, reflect, or find clarity? Share your experiences. I'd love to hear how you've navigated these quiet moments. If this resonates with you, let's keep exploring the profound lessons of human connection. Like, comment, and share this message, and together we'll uncover the beauty in silence.